So, today I'm here with Philip Prowse, and we're going to talk about a little bit of his career. He's probably best known as for his work with graded readers, right? And we're here in Japan at the Extensive Reading World Congress. So thank you for your time.
Delighted.
Good. So first of all, I wanted to ask you a bit about your background in language teaching. You've worked in a few interesting places early on in your career.
I had the great fortune to join the British Council at the time when it was expanding. And much to my surprise, age 22, I was in Egypt and moved from there to Portugal, and then had a year to do an MA in Applied Linguistics at Essex. Was meant to go to Argentina, but they had a revolution, so I ended up in Greece, where at the same time as my second child, my son, was born, and just after he was born, they decided to send me to Bangladesh. With all respect to Bangladesh, I wasn't going to take a baby there. So as a punishment, they sent me to Poland in the communist era, which was wonderful, tremendous experience.
Why so wonderful?
We were able to operate there independently of the embassy in a time when communism was really pure and hard. There was tremendous interest in English, and I could get an enormous amount of money from the UK for scholarships to get Polish teachers to Britain and to bring British teachers and books to Poland.
It's kind of soft power, right, the British Council?
Well, yes, and you know, we had 20-odd lecturers. We had the biggest program of short teacher training courses in the world. I had a huge budget, something like £500,000. I flew around the country every week. It was the most exciting time.
And then you moved from teaching into teacher training.
Well, I came back to Britain to write books, and because I'm also a textbook writer.
Right.
So I spent a year and a bit writing textbooks, and then the money ran out. So I got a job as a part-time summer teacher in a language school, teaching Chinese postgraduates in the morning and Namibian refugees in the afternoon. And eventually stayed on in the school, became director of studies, and then principal. And I had been doing teacher training abroad, but it was a residential college in Saffron Walden. And we had probably a third general English, a third, they're all adults, a third ESP, and a third teacher training.
Okay. So then how did you, you mentioned you were a textbook writer, but then how did you segue into this career as an editor and publishing?
Well, I'd always written readers when I was abroad. I started writing textbooks when I was abroad. That's the easy question, because 1994 I was made redundant, which is always a good kick up the pants. So I started again doing freelance teacher training, and then CUP wanted to start a new series. They didn't have any readers, and I was working with Barbara Sinclair, who's a big learner autonomy figure, on a course book series called Activate.
Okay.
And then they invited me. So we spent 2.5, 3 years developing the concept and piloting.
This is around the time that extensive reading was first becoming kind of known as a concept, or even a little before that, I would guess.
Well, our series was published in 1999, so the concept had been around for a while before that. The Edinburgh Foundation for Extensive Reading, Edinburgh EPA, the Programme for Extensive Reading, David Hill's lot had been going for a while, and Day and Bamford's 10 Principles came out in 2002. So I wouldn't say we were precursors. The Heinemann, Penguin, then Collins, which Penguin took over. There were other series around, but they were different in the sense they had both adapted and some original fiction.
Right. So I mean, that was one of the major decisions, right, when you started the series with Cambridge, that it would all be original. But how else did you want to differentiate yourself from those earlier readers? What had come before?
Well, not just original, but we decided it was going to be contemporary fiction, and it was going to look like trade fiction. It was going to look like a real book. So although there are pictures, originally we had 6 levels and then we added a starter. It was only the 2 lower levels that had any pictures. All the rest of it was just text. There were no questions. The covers were very grown up, looking like real books. So, but the main differentiation was to create fiction that respected the learner's integrity, because although they might have a low language level, they don't have a low intellectual level or interest level or life experience level. And the problem which we identified, taking the adapted versus original debate aside, was that a lot of the originals, and I'd written a number of them for Heinemann, were often pastiche, and some of the most successful ones I wrote for Heinemann now Macmillan, like Woman Who Disappeared, which is still selling 40 years on, and has sold well over 2.5 million copies. But that was a Raymond Chandler pastiche. It's a great book, it's had enormous success. But our aim was to develop our own group of authors to create original fiction.
So how did you find those authors early on?
We did a pilot, we did 6 books, and the authors, myself, I did 2, Sue Leather, Alan Maley, Brian Tomlinson. So they were figures I knew from my professional life, and people who shared this enthusiasm that what we were writing was as valid as trade fiction, as children's books, that it was a genre by itself.
So, since those first few books were piloted and then the series started up, how do you think the publishing of graded readers in general has changed? What have been the major developments in that time?
Well, it's boomed. The other publishers responded when we had a great success with original fiction by commissioning more. The last 5 years have meant a huge breakaway from the kind of big 4 UK publishers, with publishing developing with Black Cat in Italy, now Tamai here in Japan, Helbling, based in Austria but also with Italian links, Eli, Italian again, Santillana, the Spanish publisher, set up Richmond aimed at South America. So there's been this Compass produced, and there's a long list I could go on. And the result has been that instead of 4 series, which were roughly similar in number of levels, word coverage per level, so it was fairly straightforward for a teacher assembling a class library. Say, yeah, I can buy Oxford, I can buy Penguin, I can buy Cambridge, and they're all more or less slotted. They're not the same. My series, the Cambridge one, goes up to 3,800 words, so it's a much closer bridge to real fiction, whereas the others stop 1,400 words short of that. But the levels are roughly comparable. And there was a very good session here at the conference yesterday on a project which Charles Brown, Paul Goldberg, a guy called Brandt, whose surname I forget.
Milliner, maybe.
Could well be. a fascinating presentation. They're trying to do a graded reader comparability chart, because they put up a slide showing 12 publishers, including the original 4, and the numbering and the grading is all over the place. And nowadays you can't say this and that. Much more complex. I think other things that have changed have been great improvement in illustration, use of high quality illustration. I remember with Cambridge, we were the first people ever to record every book on cassette. And then we were the first to move all those cassettes to CDs. And we've been the first to move from CDs to audio download. And it's a free audio download, which means, in fact, if you believe, as I do, in extensive listening, you can listen to all the books free. There's no codes, there's no keys. So those are some of the things that have happened.
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned extensive listening. I know that that's something that you do believe in and have written about before. And I've seen several presentations this conference about extensive listening. So that seems to be something that's gaining a bit of traction too. Can you just give us a kind of précis of what it is for those who are not familiar?
Well, it's applying the principle of extensive reading to listening with or without a text. So on Friday I was at the SEG school here with Akio Furukawa, watching him work with a class, 2 classes in fact. And the second class, which were 11 and 12-year-olds, were doing extensive listening individually, but with headphones, all reading different books and having the book open in front of them. And quite a number of them were either sub-vocalizing, you could see them moving their lips, or actually speaking very quietly as they listened, followed the text, and they weren't repeating, they were reading with it. So it was a tremendous help to their reading speed, because the listening pushed them along. The other great benefit of extensive listening is that with phones and downloads and earbuds, you can listen on the beach, while you're jogging, on the train, while you're walking, heaven forbid, even in a lesson.
Okay, I see. Now, you're also a writer, as you mentioned, of graded readers. You won a couple of awards too for Armand's Journey was one of them, right? And Why as well.
That's right.
Both excellent books, I can add. How do you think you can write a book that still has that kind of depth and weight to it, if you like, with such simple language? What's your process for writing that way?
If you've got an hour, that was what I talked about this morning. Basically, you have to treat, as I said, the learner as a equal human being with feelings, with ideas, with world experience. And books have to be about something. I think a lot of the earlier original fictions, as I said, was pastiche or sort of pleasant, but essentially lightweight, silly stories. So books have to have a theme. And with our series, we set out to prove that you could have treatment of very serious topics at really low levels. And obviously with Why, which is about a soldier who goes on a peacekeeping mission, gets wiped out in a civil war, or Armand's Journey, which is a refugee coming from somewhere like Afghanistan, people smuggled and all the rest to Britain and then being caught and expelled. These are topics which people see on the news, they've got knowledge and thoughts about, so they have the schematic knowledge, they've got the right schema, the cultural background information to understand the situation. So that helps them, even if their linguistic knowledge is low, to process what's happening.
You didn't shy away from some kind of challenging endings. They're not all happy endings in those books either, right?
Well, no, and as I was saying this morning, a strong opening and a satisfactory ending is essential, just as you'd prefer an airline pilot who can take off and land as opposed to one who flies straight. And you can have two kinds of endings. We did a lot of surveys in preparing the series, and a lot of students want resolution. They don't want a happy end, they want something definite to happen. Yes. There's another group who like it to end with a question mark. So Our Man's Journey does end with a scintilla of hope. Yeah. Y is completely bleak, but that's life.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Okay, so you mentioned extensive listening. We talked about one way that you can incorporate reading and listening together. Do you have any other advice for teachers about how to best utilise graded readers?
I've written a few articles which are on the CUP website, which are easily searched. The key, as Richard Day was saying in the plenary this afternoon, the key is pleasure, choice, time to read, priority given by the teacher to reading and showing that by reading while the kids read in class, by reading the books him or herself. And I don't think anyone is going to achieve the number of books per class library that I saw in the school in Tokyo on Friday. There were 5,000 books in each classroom, or maybe more in some. The walls completely lined with books. But easy availability of books is a key theme. We don't have to shy away from e-books. All of our series are available electronically. And there are also good aggregators of e-books. So by aggregator, I mean books from a number of publishers available electronically, of which X-Reading, I know sponsors the conference badge, is a local example.
Yes, it is. Okay, so generally you've got a positive, kind of optimistic outlook for the future of extensive reading.
Well, very interesting figures in the UK trade book market, that e-books, which kind of went up like that, are now going down, and print books, which went down, are now going up. And a lot more money is being spent on print book covers. So, whereas 5 years ago people were predicting the death of print novels, now they're increasing. 5 years ago people predicted the death of print school textbooks, and as a textbook writer I was worried, but no, you just can't do without it. And I just see electronic developments as a useful extra.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much indeed.